Happy Wednesday. Here we are. It is another Imperfect Action live stream. This one's going to be really imperfect. My guest who was going to appear, Kellem, had texted me a little bit over an hour ago to say she was not going to be able to appear because she came down with the bronchitis. Ain't nobody got time for that. But you know what? I would be remiss if I did not do this because I'm all about imperfect action. I have to do that because that's what I'm about. So who am I? I am Rob Fenstermaker, former corporate burnout survivor turned kingdom builder. I'm all about imperfect action. And what you're witnessing now is the imperfect action live stream. So we're just going to wing it. You know, I threw my link out there to some other folks. We'll see if they show on. It kind of reminds me, I'm a big Seinfeld fan. And if you've ever seen the Seinfeld episode where Kramer finds the set of the Merv Griffin show in a dumpster and puts it in his apartment. And his people show up. Hey, he creates his own show. That's what we're going to do today. We're going to do that and see where this takes us. I'm also going to just kind of share a little bit about, who I am, why I do this, and just maybe have a little talk as well. But I also want to share a couple things with you as well. You know, one of the things I do host, I also host some events. I do host the virtual Friday Whiskey Hour. This is coming up this Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Some people said, I'd love to come, but I don't drink whiskey. Hey, you know what? There's no requirement to drink whiskey. When I put the word whiskey in there, that's just a hook. People see that word whiskey, they want to show up. But what we do have is we have great conversation. And one of the things I want to talk to my guest who's going to appear today, Kellem, as she works with high school students, getting them into college, is a couple weeks ago when we had this event, we talked about, is there still value in a college education? Because what Kelly does, she helps high school students get into college through scholarship funding. And we base this around, I saw a report that Peter Thiel was offering college students $100,000 to drop out of college for 2 years in order to pursue their entrepreneurial dreams. And I believe it's no secret that we are definitely in a leadership void. And I think the young men and women that embrace that entrepreneurial mindset, those are going to be our leaders of the future. Those are going to be the ones that are kind of going to lead us back from the brink, because we are on the brink right now. That's no news about that. And that's where true leadership is discovered, is in that entrepreneurial mindset. And I thought it was very interesting in that, you know, too many of our you hear too many stories of these young men and women. They go through a college education and they get out and they don't know what to do. They end up working at Starbucks as a barista. And hey, is a college education worth that? No, you don't need a college education to be a barista at Starbucks. But hey, it was an interesting conversation. But I would encourage you to stop by and check out the virtual Friday Whiskey Hour, another event I host every other Tuesday. I call it the Iron Sharpens Iron Community. And that's where we get together and just have those conversations to support each other, support one another as we go through life. And that's what it's about. Is you don't go through life alone. You go through life with others. That's what makes life powerful. We're all unique, but in that uniqueness, we need to have others support us. So, having said that, I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of wing it here and see where this imperfect action takes us. So, I'm just going to kind of cover some things that people have asked me. One thing that I get asked a lot is, what got me into coaching? Well, it's simple. A lot of my career has been around coaching. I was an Army officer, and when you're an Army officer, the expectation is you're going to coach and mentor your soldiers, and I think I did pretty well at that. I was able to do so and get a lot of my soldiers promoted. I had the opportunity to do some coaching in corporate world. My wife and I, we also did youth work for 15 years through our church, and I was coaching and mentoring youth, seventh and eighth graders. I love that age. That was a fantastic age, because the seventh grade and eighth grade boys are totally ADD. They don't know what's going on with life, and the seventh and eighth grade girls, they really don't care about boys, and they're trying to get there. But it's that age where they're really trying to get things figured out. And I was able to really to speak into their lives. But I had to step away, because one thing I realized after 15 years of doing it, those kids stayed the same age, but I kept getting older, so I had to step away from that. But it was fun. It's what makes it most worthwhile is when I run into them now. And a lot of those seventh and eighth graders I worked with all those years ago, they are now young adults. Some have been married, some have had their first child, some have gotten through college, some have gotten their first big boy, big girl job. But they remember me, and I remember them. The one thing that they always come up and say, and they say, they'll call me still Mr. Fenstermaker. They say, Mr. Fenstermaker, you remember when you said, and I think, okay, well, what exactly did I say? They'll share with me what I said and how it made a difference in their life at that point. And that's what imperfect action is all about. is you have the opportunity each and every day to do something to change somebody's life, to be powerful. And we can change the world. When you really think about it, maybe we can't do it on the macro level. Maybe we can, but we can definitely do it on the micro level. You can change your world. You can change the world of those that you have connection with. So, what I want to talk about today is I want to talk about what I call, I've done this talk a few times, and I'm going to be actually doing this talk here in about a week and a half. I call it the three people you meet at Shawshank. And if you've never seen the movie Shawshank Redemption, I'm assuming many of you have seen it. To me, it's one of the best movies ever made because it tells an amazing story. And I love story. I absolutely love story because stories are what, inspire you, move you, put you into action, get you to do something. And there's so many stories in this movie. But in particular, I want to talk about the three people you meet at Shawshank because these are the three people we meet in life. These are the three people you meet when you go into the office at work. These are the three people you meet when you're out walking your dog in the neighborhood. These are the three people you meet when you're standing in line at the grocery store or you go to church on Sunday. These are the three people you meet. They're going to fall in one of three categories in how they approach life and how they think about life. And I call it the three people you meet at Shawshank. And just and sometimes I guess you can see yourself in all three of these. I can definitely see myself in all three of these at different points in my life, but it provides you the opportunity when you start thinking about it that way to make a difference. The first person I want to talk about, a man called Brooks Hack. Have you ever seen the movie Who is Brooks? Well, Brooks is a man who's pretty much spent his entire life in prison. You could say that Brooks is a model prisoner. All he knows about life is that life behind those walls, the walls of Shawshank Prison. He can't imagine anything beyond that. And he's a decent guy in prison. People like him, but he knows there's going to be nothing beyond those walls. That's his life. He's accepted it. He's accepted that life of living behind these walls and never wants to aspire to be any more. Well, one day, Brooks finds out he is going to be paroled. He gets to go out beyond the walls of Shawshank. He panics. He doesn't know what to do. How can I go beyond these walls? Because this is all I know. I've become institutionalized. I've become so institutionalized behind these walls. This is all I'm comfortable with, and I can't deal with being uncomfortable. I can't do it. So he hatches a scheme that the only way he can stay behind those walls is to kill one of his friends. As he's sitting there holding a knife to his throat, saying, "I can't go out. I can't go out." He's just distraught. He's upset. But others come to the rescue and talk him out of dropping that knife, and he breaks down. He knows he doesn't he knows he can't go beyond those walls, but hey, he's got to go out. The parole has happened, so he gets a job at a grocery, and he as a bagger at a grocery. But he spends his time inside his halfway house room, and he's just lost. He doesn't know what to do. He knows that this world that he's now experiencing that is taking him behind, outside of these walls is something that is foreign to him. He's totally uncomfortable. He doesn't know what to do. All he knows to do is sit behind those walls. He can't break them down. Sadly, at one point, Brooks decides it's time to end this. And he hangs himself from the rafters in one of his room, in his room. Before he does that, he scratches on it, Brooks was here. So it's sad. We see these people all the time that they can't get beyond the walls of their life. Now you see them when you go to work. They're the kinds that the word job to them is a curse word. They can't imagine taking another step to be somebody else, to be a better version of who they want to become. And they sit behind those walls. They sit behind their own prison cell and only say that this is where I'm comfortable. I don't want to be uncomfortable. Uncomfortable to them is something that is too scary to handle, that they can't do it. They live a life in which they really don't make a difference. They don't make an impact. They kind of get to the end of their life with regret because they've never taken opportunity to do something. The next one we see is Ellis Boyd Redding. or as he's known in the movie, Red. And who was Ellis Boyd Redding? You know, one of the things he says in the movie, I'm the only guilty man here at Shawshank, because he admits his crime. He's admitted his crime. He came in as a young man in his early 20s for murder, for with a life sentence. And he mentioned, he's got a couple great lines that, hope in a place like Shawshank, hope is a dangerous thing. I think hope is powerful, but in his mind, the hope of getting paroled is something that is just too dangerous for him. He can't do that. But he also says, hey, it's time to either get busy living or get busy dying. And that's so true with life. If you're struggling with what it is you want to do, it's time to get busy living and live that life you want to live, because the alternative is what the other is. Red really doesn't hold out hope that he is going to get parole, but you know what? One day that finally happens. He has that parole hearing. And he's had several of them, but this is the one he goes to, and it was just with an attitude that, I'm not going to get it. But they ask him, the parole board asks him a question. Do you regret being here? He says, yeah, I regret this each and every day that I'm here. He said, if I had the opportunity to go back to that young 20-year-old, I would tell him, you have to make other decisions. You have to make other choices. Don't do this. They're impressed by his response. And he's paroled. As he walks away from those walls, he is overjoyed. The smile on his face is ear to ear. He goes into the same community that Brooks had been. He actually gets a job at the same grocery, doing the same uh, work, bagging groceries at the grocery store. He's still institutionalized. He's still regimented as to what he can and can't do. But he struggles as well. He struggles trying to get some things figured out, trying to figure out what it is he wants to do with life, what that next step he wants to do. There's a key scene in that movie where he's walking by a pawn store, and he sees a gun in the window, and he's just kind of sitting there staring at it. You kind of wonder, what's his plan? Is he going to buy that to end his life, or is he going to buy that to rob somebody to get put back in Shawshank? We don't know. Place, find this thing under the tree, and you'll have great opportunity. So what's Red do? He embarks to discover that, to go find that thing that's under the tree. And what is under that tree is a note telling him what to do, telling him the direction to take. Red follows it. He does as he's told. And it takes him to another level, takes him to an experience that he thought was impossible. And there's those people in life that, yeah, they want something out of life. They just don't know what to do. They need somebody to come alongside of them, guide them, direct them, show them the way. That guide, that guru, whatever you want to call it, that person that shows them, and they take action. They take imperfect action. They do it, not knowing what the response is going to be. They don't overthink it. They just do it. The action is taken. That's one of the things of who I used to be, that person that I necessarily wouldn't take the action. I would overthink it too much. I felt maybe a little intimidated. But once I found that person in my life to show me what it is to do, I took the action. I did it. I don't regret it. I put that past behind me, because too many people hang on to their past. They'll create an identity around what that past is. Whatever that, some failing they may have had. Like to call it the Uncle Rico effect. Have you ever seen the movie Napoleon Dynamite? Uncle Rico, he can't get past that fourth quarter in his final high school football game when he got taken out of the game. And he's convinced if he had stayed in this game, his team would have won the state championship. I don't know. But he can't move past that. The past is over. We can't change the past. All we can do is learn from it. Quit hanging on to it. Quit creating the past as your identity. Your identity is much deeper than that. Understand who you are and whose you are. That's where your identity is located at. That's where you find your identity. Don't worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow's not here. Why are you worrying about tomorrow? I used to be that person that would get really anxious and worry about things that may happen. And the irony is, I would say 99% of the stuff that I used to worry about never happened, never materialized, never happened. Why do we worry about those things? You know what? Here's the other thing about tomorrow. There's no guarantee you're going to get it tomorrow. So don't worry about it. You have what this today is. Today is where all your opportunities are. I'm someone who loves to go out in nature. What do I love about nature? It just is. There's no yesterday, there's no tomorrow. It just is. If you've never been in nature, get in nature, experience, just become mindful of everything that's around it, the smells, the sights, the sounds. One thing I did last night, I live on the southwest coast of Florida. And so about a little bit over a mile away from the beach. So last night I went down to the beach to watch the sunset, and I just sat there and just observed it. To me, there's so much power in it, when the sun is going down. There's just a power I can't explain, but I just took it in. I listened to the sounds. There were children playing on the beach. I'd hear the waves lapping up. There were birds. There were a couple dolphins swimming out there, and I just kind of watched the sun as it dropped down beneath the sea. Be mindful about that. Take those opportunities that exist in each and every day. That's what's important. Embrace them, because that's where you start to discover what it is you can accomplish, who you can become. That person I like to call that person of excellence. And I got that from a quote I read years ago by a man called LP Jacks, where he talks about a master in the art of living. And he ends up by saying that everything they do with excellence. When you are just in tune with life that's going around you, you are doing it with excellence. Become that master in the art of living. Embrace it. I'd love to have that conversation with you, to watch you become that master in your art of living. I'd love to have that conversation. I do offer complimentary discovery calls where we do just that, explore what it looks like for you to become that person of excellence. And I would encourage you to go ahead and jump on my calendar if you want to have that conversation, to understand what a life of excellence means for you. The third person, if you've seen the movie, I'm sure you figured it out, is Andy Dufresne. Now, who is Andy? As the movie starts, we see his trial in which he's convicted for murdering his wife. And as he's, arrives at Shawshank, he's kind of questioning himself. Did I do this? I don't know. But he accepts it. I was convicted. I guess I did this. But as he spends time in Shawshank, he starts to obtain clarity that I did not kill my wife. Someone else did this. And he knows without a doubt that someone else did this. So it's time for him to break down those walls that are holding him back, make his escape. And he does that. But one thing, he doesn't do it in an instant. It takes him time, it takes him years in order to do that. And if you've seen the movie, you know that he just starts digging each night a little bit out of the wall. So he creates a hole that's big enough for him to get through. He's able to hide this hole behind a poster. First it's Rita Hayworth, then it's Raquel Welch. He hides that hole behind that poster. Finally, that night arrives when he can finally crawl through that hole. He does just that. And you know what? A lot of people will crawl through that hole. They'll crawl through that hole of what they've created. But there's one more thing that Andy has to do to make his full escape. And that's where a lot of people say, whoa, I can't go that deep. What's he do? He's got to crawl through 100 yards of shit in a sewage pipe to get to the other side. And we all have that shit in our lives, those things that we have to deal with. And sometimes we have to deal with them in a way that takes us to that next level. Because I absolutely believe the things that we have in our life that we think are the shit, the things that are bad, that's our opportunity. We deal with them in an effective way for us to make the biggest difference. Those things, those deepest pains we have the opportunity to be our greatest crown. And that's what Andy did. He crawled through that. He dealt with that. And he was able to discover his crown. So as I've talked about these three people, like I said, I can see myself as all three of those at some point in my life. Now I want to take people on a journey to empower them to be that best version of who they can become. I want to see you take that next step. The people that I think are the most effective, most willing to do this are the Reds, because they want to do something. They're just not clear. They just need somebody to show them the way of how to do it. And that's what I love to do. I will show you the way, but it requires you to do the work. I cannot do the work for you. I can show you what to do, but you have to do the work. You have to do the hard work on yourselves. Work harder on yourself than you do your job. Work harder on yourself than you do your relationships. Work harder on yourself than anything else. Because when you do that, you will become that person of excellence. You will become that person that takes that elevated step to become a person that makes a difference in this world, that person of impact. I like to call it that person of significance. And to me, I wanted you to help build your kingdom. Well, what exactly is that kingdom? That kingdom to me represents you living that life that makes a difference. You living that life of significance. Stop chasing after success all the time because success is so fleeting. And I've spent more years than I want to say in corporate. And one thing was always true about corporate: you're expected to be chasing after success nonstop. But I started to realize that every time I was about ready to cross that finish line as how success was being defined to me, somebody would move that line. Either a new policy would come down from on high or a new sheriff would come into town and I'd have to start all over again. But I was coached one point. I went through the coaching process myself and it helped me to create a new mind shift, mindset of how to look at life, to look at one that there is honor in work, but to look at that my identity is not wrapped up in this 9 to 5. I have more identity than just beyond that. And I had the opportunity to do a few different things outside of my 9 to 5, which helped me to create a more robust identity of who I was and how I was serving people in a powerful way. And identity is important. Be careful with how you identify yourself. Identify yourself to understand who you are and whose you are. Revelation 2:17 in the Bible talks about a white stone, and on that white stone is written a secret name that you will receive one day. And I absolutely believe you can receive that secret name in this life. And what that secret name is who you were created to be. That person of influence, that person of impact, that person of significance. That's the name that's written on that white stone of how you're going to serve this world in a powerful way. Because we've all been given life, and this life that we've been given is to serve this world in a powerful way. This life we have, I call it our dash. We have a day we were born and a day we die, and in between that is that dash. And what do you do with that dash? How are you going to live your dash? And it would be great if we could go to a cemetery and decipher each dash that was on there to understand, who these people were, who they loved, what they did, how they made a difference in this life, the things they enjoyed, the foods they ate, the adventures they had. It would be great if we could get all that information on that dash, but we don't. But each day is an opportunity for you to add more to your dash because your days are limited. I don't know when my time ends, but one thing I know for sure is that I sit here today. I'm one day closer than what I was yesterday. I have to make the most out of each and every day, and you do too. You have to make the most out of each and every day. I'm 60 years old. I don't have much time left. I know my time is going to come to an end at some point, but I want to make the most of this. I'm calling this my encore career because I want to serve you in a powerful way to help you, to empower you to become that person of excellence. I would love to have that conversation with you. Jump on my calendar, schedule some time for a complimentary discovery call. We'll do just that. Explore, how you can be that person that makes a difference in this world. How you can do that. So, as I said, as I started this, this Friday is my virtual Friday whiskey hour. I'd love for you to stop by and enjoy that, enjoy the conversation. No need to drink whiskey, no need to drink anything, but enjoy the conversation. Be participative in the conversation. Make new connections, meet new people. That's what's great about this event. Also, Iron Sharpens Iron is next Tuesday. Stop by, meet some new people, make those connections. So, I guess this is the Imperfect Action live stream. I'm being imperfect today. I'm just kind of going through this. I hope you're getting something out of this. But if you want to be a guest on the Imperfect Action live stream, you can as well. How do you do that? You just go ahead and jump on my calendar link. Look for the sign that says Imperfect Action live stream guest. Schedule your date and time, and you too can appear as a guest on the Imperfect Action live stream. Well, I've kind of run out of things to talk about on this Imperfect Wednesday. I've made this as imperfectly imperfect as I can, but I do love doing this. I love the rawness of just going on live and just talking and seeing what happens because there is definitely a level of rawness. It's very authentic. because there's no, wait a minute, I got to pause it and re-record this. Now you're getting the real thing right now. And that's part of why I love to do this, because it brings a level of authenticity. I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And the thing I see a lot of people do is they try and please everyone. They try and be people pleasers. And the problem with what happens when you try and please everyone is you please no one. So be the authentic version of who you are. Be that person of character. Be that person that lives their life with excellence. Be that master in the art of living. And I would love to have that conversation with you. I would love to see you take that next step to become that version of who you want to be, to create that identity around what you want your life to represent, to take that next step, to live that life of significance, to break down those walls and obstacles that are holding you back as we build that bridge so that you can step into your kingdom and make a difference. Well, this brings to a close this Wednesday's version of the Imperfect Action live stream. Like I said, I hope you got something out of this. I hope you're able to take away. I hope I can see you this Friday at the Virtual Friday Whiskey Hour. But let's make this a great hump day. Let's do the best we can. Let's be that person of excellence. Let's become that master in the art of living. And peace out.